Imagine standing in a place that feels completely unreal. The ground beneath your feet is perfectly white. The horizon stretches endlessly in every direction. There are no trees, no buildings, no mountains nearby, only a vast empty landscape that seems to continue forever. For a moment, it feels like you have stepped onto another planet. But this place is not in space. It exists right here on Earth. High in the mountains of Bolivia lies one of the strangest landscapes on our planet. This place is called Salar de Uyuni. It is the largest salt flat on Earth, covering more than 10,000 square kilometers. From space, the region looks like a giant white ocean. But instead of water, the ground is made entirely of salt. Millions of years ago, this region was covered by ancient lakes. Over time, those lakes slowly evaporated. As the water disappeared, thick layers of salt remained behind. Eventually, the entire area transformed into a vast salt desert. Today, the salt crust can be several meters thick. The surface appears smooth and almost perfectly flat. In fact, Salar de Uyuni is one of the flattest places on Earth. Because of this, scientists sometimes use the area to calibrate satellites. The perfectly level surface helps create accurate measurements. But what makes Salar de Uyuni truly extraordinary happens during the rainy season. For a short time each year, a thin layer of water covers the salt flat, only a few centimeters deep. Yet this small amount of water creates an incredible transformation. The entire landscape becomes a giant mirror. The sky reflects perfectly across the surface. Clouds appear beneath your feet. Mountains in the distance seem to float in the air. The horizon disappears completely. It becomes almost impossible to tell where the ground ends and the sky begins. Walking across the salt flat during this time feels surreal. Each step seems to float above the clouds. Visitors often say it feels like walking through the sky. Photographers travel from around the world to capture this phenomenon. The reflections create some of the most unusual images on Earth. Sometimes the landscape becomes so reflective that people appear to be standing in the clouds. The effect is so perfect that it looks like computer graphics, but it is completely natural. Another unusual feature of Salar de Uyuni appears beneath the salt surface. The region contains enormous reserves of lithium. Lithium is an important element used in modern batteries. As technology continues to develop, lithium has become increasingly valuable. Some scientists believe the salt flat may contain one of the largest lithium reserves in the world. This has created interest from industries around the globe. Yet the landscape itself remains fragile. The salt crust forms delicate geometric patterns across the surface. These patterns appear as hexagonal shapes. They stretch across the flat desert like a giant natural mosaic. Scientists believe these shapes form because of temperature changes. During the day, the surface expands. At night, it contracts. Over time, this movement causes the salt to crack into repeating shapes. The result is a landscape covered in natural patterns. From above, it looks almost like a giant piece of artwork. Despite its harsh environment, life still exists here. Flamingos visit the salt flats during certain seasons. They gather in nearby lagoons where minerals support algae growth. The bright pink birds create a striking contrast against the white landscape. Seeing flamingos walking across the salt desert only adds to the surreal feeling. As the sun sets over Salar de Uyuni, the colors of the sky reflect across the mirror-like surface. The entire world becomes a blend of orange, pink, and deep purple. The horizon disappears completely. Standing there can feel almost dreamlike. It becomes difficult to believe that this place exists on Earth. Yet this alien-looking world is entirely natural, created slowly through geological processes over millions of years. And even today, the landscape continues to change. Wind moves salt crystals across the surface. Rainwater briefly transforms the desert into a mirror. The Earth itself continues shaping this extraordinary place. Salar de Uyuni reminds us that our planet still contains environments that seem impossible. Places that look like they belong on another world. Places that challenge our expectations of what Earth should look like. And places that make us realize how strange and beautiful our planet truly is. Despite its remote location, Salar de Uyuni has become one of the most fascinating places for scientists and explorers. The unique surface of the salt flat provides valuable opportunities for research. Because the ground is so flat, satellites use the area to calibrate instruments. Even small changes in elevation can be measured accurately here. Few places on Earth provide such a perfectly level surface. But the salt flat also reveals important clues about climate history. The layers beneath the surface contain records of ancient lakes that once covered the region. By studying these layers, scientists can learn how the climate changed thousands of years ago. Each layer tells a story about rainfall, temperature, and geological activity. Understanding this history helps researchers better understand how Earth's climate evolves over time. The region also attracts astronomers. At night, the sky above the salt flat becomes incredibly clear. With almost no light pollution, the stars appear brighter than in most places on Earth. During the rainy season, the reflections double the effect. The sky appears both above and below the observer. Stars seem to surround the entire landscape. Some visitors describe the experience as standing in the middle of the universe. The silence of the salt desert adds to the atmosphere. Wind moves gently across the surface. Occasionally, a distant sound echoes across the empty landscape. But most of the time, the environment feels completely still. That stillness creates a powerful sense of isolation. Standing in the middle of the salt flat, it becomes easy to imagine being on another planet. Yet this place also reminds us how dynamic Earth truly is. Millions of years ago, this region was underwater. Today, it is a vast salt desert. In the future, the landscape may change again. Geological forces constantly reshape our planet. Mountains rise, oceans form, lakes appear and disappear. The Earth is always evolving. Salar de Uyuni is one example of how dramatic those changes can be. A place that once held ancient lakes is now the largest salt flat on Earth. And during certain moments each year, that desert becomes the world's largest natural mirror. Few places on Earth can transform so dramatically. From a dry white desert to a reflective ocean of sky. Visitors who experience this transformation often describe it as unforgettable. Walking across the mirror-like surface feels like stepping into another dimension. The boundary between land and sky disappears. Perspective becomes impossible to judge. Distance becomes meaningless. In photographs, the effect looks almost magical. But standing there in person reveals something even more powerful. The realization that our planet still contains places that look completely unfamiliar. Places that challenge our sense of reality. Places that remind us that Earth can sometimes look as strange as any distant planet. Salar de Uyuni remains one of those places, a landscape that looks like another world. Yet it exists here, on our own planet, a place that proves the most alien landscapes may not be in space. They may already be waiting here on Earth.